It didn't take much more than a bottle and 2 chairs to make a speakeasy. This is what Daniel Okrent said in his book, Last Call, The Rise and Fall of Prohibition. Today, join us for some stories. Get your own bottle, glass, or mug, and relax. This is Speak Easily, and I'm your host, Krista Stauffer.
So you used to be the last one showing up?
He always gave me, when we were on tour together, he gave me crap because while I would go to the theater with him, I didn't put my initials on the sign-in sheet. And that would mean the stage manager hunts down. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, in hindsight, I should have been better about that. But I was there.
You were there.
But I wasn't on at the top of the show. So I also had extra time. I had like 3 scenes in, and I was covered in fabric for my first scene. So it was not something you're like in a rush.
You're like, I need to
get ready for
this.
And in your 8th month of the tour, you start to get complacent. And I look back on that and say, okay, that was where I could have been better. Because complacency is not good.
It's not good. Are you like early in most things in life? Because you seem like you are a pretty time-conscious person.
Yes, you have to be.
Yeah.
So, I have to be.
Yeah.
Thinking of that because you have to give yourself flat tire insurance, right?
I agree.
I
agree. And I get anxious if I'm late.
Yeah.
I mean, if something's happening, yesterday I had an event and I was thinking it was in a different place, which was 5 minutes away. Mm-hmm. Didn't go there, checked at the last minute, and then I get a text, "You doing okay?" And it was like, I was there 2 minutes late and I felt horrible. Because to me, that's, I need to be there. I need to mentally be where I am.
I can't be shot out of a cannon.
No. I need to know what's going on, and I like to kind of feel the room. And
the hardest part of our job at the airline is being where you're supposed to be on time, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of factors that you fight against, though.
Yes, and you have to plan for them.
Yeah.
So that's what creeps in and manages your day a lot of the time. In the moment, things are like, oh, okay, I know what to do here.
Yeah.
But, like,
in the headspace.
Planning ahead.
Yeah.
It's hard.
So, like, tomorrow you have a 6 a.m. flight.
Right.
What time do you get to the airport?
This is down to the 5-minute interval because I really, once the alarm went off at 4, I was like, no, ma'am. And so I was like, can we push it to 4:10?
Yeah.
Can we push it to 4:15?
Do you have separate alarms set?
As long as I'm out of the house on the way to the airport by 4:45, I'm going to be comfortably okay.
Okay.
If I pushed it past that, it takes away from my coffee time. It takes away from, did I get a seat assignment? It's just stuff like that. What if TSA makes me go through longer security, which they sometimes do?
You have to be
variables,
ready for all that.
so you have to be ready for that.
Because it'd
be very unfortunate to miss a flight for any of those things.
Well, that's true, and you probably get dinged for that.
No,
but I mean,
because they're like I was saying, micromanage. Now, if I were flying, and I had a scheduled time to check in at a gate, and I was late for that, then we have a problem.
Yeah,
but for the office, it's
a little
it's
bit
not
more flexible.
as strict. You just have to strategically not make that a regular thing, and also show that it did not affect anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm an early flyer. I am my grandfather's grandchild in that he was like he wouldn't sleep the night before just because he was thinking about the trip and planning for the trip.
And I can relate to that. The hardest part is tonight.
Yeah.
What's coming up?
Right.
Like I also have a conference in DC to pack for, so I'm really not going to get back home until like Friday night, maybe even Saturday morning.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm going to pack and do all those things. And then once you actually do settle down in bed, I was like, no, I'm reading. I got to unwind.
Right.
But then my mind goes, and crap, I only got 3 hours of sleep. So it's tough when you've got to do that.
Yeah.
And, if you're not on the rhythm with the rest of your house, the people in it.
Those people.
Yeah.
I mean, we love them dearly.
Yeah, the other ones who, stay up late and watch whatever.
And you're like, I hate you both.
Yeah.
Very much.
Having their late night whiskeys and
all those fun things.
We love that.
How do you plan for a trip then? Because I mean, obviously, like this week you're in the office, so it's a little more cash and.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're doing. I mean, do you have face-to-face meetings with folks?
Yeah.
That would maybe kind of dictate what I bring to wear.
Fair.
But
Okay,
if
how do
not,
you give us your. So let's start here. How many
we
years?
started yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
This is what we do.
Hi.
Hi, Adam Williams. It's so formal, isn't it?
I love
Let
it.
me move my page of notes that I have for questions for you out of the way. How long have you been working with the airline industry?
Okay, so 18 years. I've just started my
Amazing 'cause
19th
you're
year.
22.
Thank you.
Right?
Flattery gets you everywhere,
I
Chris
know.
Stoffer.
This is why I do this. 18 years.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, it started as a flight attendant.
Okay.
And did that for many years, but at the same time fell into the training department and became an instructor, which was so much fun.
You're a natural educator, though, I think, that there's something about you that.
You know, I really attribute it to my theater degree because you are naturally comfortable in front of people. And when you become confident with what you're doing, you're able to show others,
Right.
right? So the teaching came out of just me having a conversation with somebody else who was teaching, saying, "Oh, I do this. You should try." I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing. Okay,
Okay.
because I loved my instructors. Why not? We were sitting standby at the airport one night having this conversation. So I went ahead and found a way to apply and did, and started doing it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally letting me
It kind of fills a
use
lot
my
of-
people
yeah.
skills, and it changes it up.
Right.
You're not, constantly grinding out flights. You have something else to do to focus on. But then the beauty of it was when you did that maybe for a few months, you're like, oh, okay, this is a little routine. You can just go right back to flying, and you have a fresher perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And you're more engaged.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you started way back before you were 22 as an actor. Did you go to school for acting?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, for musical theater.
Musical theater.
Which they'd like to say was very different from the drama department.
So
I was like,
night and day.
yeah.
Were you CCM?
I was. I went to Cincinnati.
Okay.
And, it was lucky for me because I was in state. I grew up near Cleveland
Oh, okay.
in Lorraine,
Oh, yes, Lorraine.
which is like, that's not Cleveland. I'm like, I know. That's why I say near.
Right.
We had Lake Erie.
Of course you did. One of my best friends is from Lorraine.
Yeah. Wait, who?
Kate Delgado.
I don't know.
She went to the Catholic high school.
Lorraine
Kate, I'm
Catholic.
calling you out.
Yeah.
Lorraine Catholic.
LC. Mm-hmm. Sure.
So she got married up. That was the first time I was in Lorraine, was for her wedding.
Oh, my gosh.
20 some years ago.
Well, hello, Kate. We
Hi,
should meet
Kate.
sometime.
You absolutely should.
Yeah.
She's delightful.
Yeah, so I was auditioning all over the place at the places they told you were supposed to audition. You go to Carnegie Mellon, you go to Michigan, you go to, then Syracuse was on my radar.
Yep.
I had plans to go to the Boston Conservatory and look at them, but that was not a thing because Cincinnati was like, yes. So,
Yeah.
it was good for us because it was in state. It was in state tuition.
Yep.
There was only one other person in my class from Ohio.
Oh, wow.
Which was very interesting because there was about 20, there were 3 of us from Ohio, I think. There was 25 people or so who were invited in. And of the 22 that show up, we had a small Ohio contingent. The rest were from Hawaii, California.
Why would somebody from Hawaii come to Ohio?
It was reputation for the school at the time,
Fair.
I think. you
Yeah,
know.
but still.
Yeah.
I think that person's probably like, what was I thinking?
Well,
Why am I here?
Knowing Hawaii now, I'm like, man, it's tough to leave Hawaii. But
Yeah.
when you live in Hawaii, it's very different.
Did you go to school with Matty Welsh?
I did. He was a year behind me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
It's wonderful.
Funny.
We met at COSI. We were
Nice.
friends from COSI. He
Oh.
was a great encourager to get me back into theater.
He's a good egg.
He's so wonderful.
Yeah, we still keep in touch on Facebook a little bit. He's like, you're here, you're doing this.
I saw him in New York several years back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, met out with him, and he's exactly as wonderful as he was
Yeah,
the day I met him.
it's just great. What a time. I mean, it was, this was 95 to 99.
Mm-hmm.
So when I graduated there, it was at the turn of the millennium. And, we played
Yep.
that up.
You had to shut your computer off at midnight?
Well, yeah. Don't kid. We did.
No,
we,
I know. I remember that New Year's of just like, are we going to die? I think I had a lot of...
There was that moment of woohoo. And then we all just sort of looked at each other and looked at our watches
Are we
and looked at the
okay?
sky
We're
and
still here.
okay, we're all fine. Okay.
He's all right.
Refill me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I did that. Then I went to bed shortly with Harry Buffalo. It does it to you. That was my sophomore, junior year in college,
Oh,
not high
wow.
school.
At Otterbein, right?
At Otterbein.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you went to CCM. You graduated. What'd you do right after that?
They are very good and still are very good about getting you good exposure right away. So,
Okay.
you know, and a lot of schools do this now. I know Otterbrand does just the showcase. So you spend most of your senior year planning for that.
Yeah.
And my God, they really set it up to be like the biggest day of your life until it's not, right? Like you're
Sort of
you're-
like January 1st, 2000.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
everything's okay.
Yeah. So we put in months of work for this hour-long review, which at the time, showcases had a theme. They've gotten away from this.
What did you say?
Well, okay. So
Okay.
we had the theme was Millennium.
Of course.
We wanted to put
Yeah.
that out there.
Because it was new.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing
And
it.
so we were exploring themes of like what it meant to work, people who were discriminated against in work. So hence 9 to 5 came up.
Okay.
Somebody sang, the girls sang that. We sang What You Own. I think we threw in some Van Halen. We sang Right Now, which was a very like 90s
Oh, yeah.
sort of song.
I remember that video.
Yeah, right. And it's giving you all those facts about like
Yep.
what's happening in the world. So that was relevant. And then we did, all the adult themes of love and children and
Yeah.
heartache. And then we wrapped it up with Next from Pacific Overtures. And,
Okay.
about exciting things to come
Yeah.
that we know about or are hoping for.
Yeah.
For a long time, they said it was their favorite one.
Oh, nice.
The folks at school. But now I think showcases are now just sort of like, don't theme it, just get up, do your thing. And I think the industry professionals find that more efficient, which I agree.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Quicker
But
and quicker out. Yeah.
the time we spent putting into constructing the perfect hour with the most even features, and that was on us. And we had to bring that to our professors and
Like for
they would
approval? Like for their approval to
right.
Oh.
And then they would, adjust it. And there were some hard nights, figuring all that out. But when we finally put it up, it
was fine.
was good. And then you do it, and then you do it once at school, and then you go to New York, you do a couple of shows there. And they, you'd have a reception.
Okay.
You would schmooze with whoever you could schmooze with. But then at the end, everybody would leave except us, and they kind of left little notes for us to pick up as to who might have wanted to engage with us later and talk to us.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh. And
That's
then
nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was very nerve-wracking. I don't know how they do it now, but that's what it was then. But yeah, and so some context came out of it. It was
Yeah.
good, but I fell immediately into the show I did with Tom.
Okay. Oh, that guy.
Who
That Tom Christopher Warren guy.
and full disclosure, we had a full showmance out of that.
Aw.
It was a showmance.
What
and
show was that?
This was the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It was happening at Paper Mill,
Oh, nice.
and then we were taking it on the road, although we didn't know how long.
yeah.
So we were like, it's going to a few cities, and that ended up being a whole year of work.
Oh, nice. That's
But-
a good job. straight
Oh
out of
man,
college.
but it was a double-edged sword because when you do that, all of the momentum you created with meeting people right out of school, you had to do all over again when you
Yep.
came back a year later. So you go away for a year, and I'm sure many people, when they're doing cruise ships or what have you, they have that challenge.
Yeah.
Which is like, hi, this is me, and I still do this, and we talked a year ago, and they're like, huh?
I'm sorry, who? Yeah. Wow.
But I did that for about 4 years.
Who did you play
What, in Joseph?
in Joseph?
Oh gosh, so I was ensemble, but the butler.
Okay.
So I was not a brother because the brothers were a few actors from New York, but then also the Osmond brothers, second generation
Gotcha.
of the family.
Okay.
So they took up the majority of that casting.
Who was Joseph in that one?
Joseph was Patrick Cassidy.
Do I know him?
Well, yeah, he's Shirley Jones's
Oh,
son, David's brother.
right on. Okay. Because I was in it with Sam Harris when he was touring with it.
Nice.
I was in the children's choir. of that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
He did it forever.
That was a long time. I think he met his husband through the show, too.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Osmonds were a big part of that for a long time. If it wasn't Donnie, it was David. It was, they were always involved. 5 originals.
Okay.
So this is Alan Osmond, who's one of the original 5. It was his sons.
Okay.
That were in,
So they
that made up our brothers,
the
plus,
brothers.
and then the 2 littlest ones at the time. And, at this point, they're all in their 30s.
Right.
But, oh God. They were in the children's choir.
Okay.
So still touring out to every city with us.
Yeah.
But, and we had Deborah Gibson as the narrator.
Aw.
That was fun.
She's lovely. Isn't
She is lovely. And she's the one that pegged Tom and I for a showmance. She's like, you guys are in a showmance. I totally approve. I said, okay, I've never heard that word before.
You're like, I'm 20.
But what was fun is that I got to understudy Patrick. So I went on for Joseph a lot.
Oh, cool.
And so I told her one night, I was like, listen, I have a soft spot that you and I are doing a duet of Any Dream We'll Do at the end of the show because you were my first dance in junior high. Like it was Lost in Your Eyes. She's like,
Lost
oh
in
my
Your
gosh.
Eyes, yep.
She's like, now I'm
Yep.
like,
That's
know,
one of my
in disbelief that you
go-to
told me that.
cabaret numbers.
it's a great song.
It's a great song.
She's an amazing writer.
She wrote that.
She did. And yeah,
She was
wrote,
what, 12 when she did?
Probably. She's always written her own songs. And I think she was the youngest person to ever write and produce her number one hit at the
Oh my
time.
gosh.
Yeah. Or a number one hit.
Yeah.
And we were in San Francisco, and I think we got an apartment, like a deal on an apartment because we were there for a while. And so Tom and I were there, and she stayed with us.
Aw.
So she would just write in the
Yeah.
mornings. She had a piano in the lobby there, or the foyer of the apartment.
Yeah.
And she wrote it. At the time, Britney Spears was just coming out. Like the One More Time album was there with She's in the Skirt, and she's
Yep.
got her little
The pigtails.
And she had a Britney Spears notebook, and she's like, I'm writing all these songs in this Britney Spears notebook. That just sort of completes it for me. I'm like, get it. Just
Love
get
it.
it.
Was that kind of surreal though? Like this icon from growing up? I mean, I had Electric Youth perfume. And
yeah.
I had the tapes of Debbie Gibson.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, that was just what I had on my radio.
Yeah.
And now this is the person in front of me who's
Right.
just a great person.
Yeah.
And who happens to have done those things. But I think when you're in show business, the celebrity factor is,
It kind of diminishes.
and that helped me for being a flight attendant later to having celebrities on a flight because I was like, it's just,
You're a
they're-
person.
yeah, you're just a human.
Yeah. Just act nice, and it doesn't matter what you do.
You don't want to end up in the
Don't
news.
be a jerk. So you did the tour thing for a long time, and
Toured, came back to New York, and I was still, so now we're getting into my tumultuous 20s where I didn't know what I wanted to be.
yeah,
Because
does
I still worked. I did a lot of readings. I didn't like any of them.
yeah.
I was like, I'm lucky to work. Like, I'm getting a
Right.
paycheck. This
Yeah.
isn't fun. So now, while you're doing that, your mind will naturally wander. And the Food Network is just starting to be popular. And I would watch that to sort of like relax and
Okay.
decompress on some days. And it just fascinated me. And I
Yeah.
said to Tom one day, I was like, this looks like so much fun to do. I said, but what do you do in food if you don't want to like be a butcher or a fishmonger or stuff that I'm not really,
Yeah.
thinking
All
I'd
the
be
other
very good at.
Sweeney Todd jobs.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, you do dessert.
Okay.
And I was
Had
like,
you done it before?
no, because my mom did not like to bake.
Oh.
If we were lucky, we got Jell-O no-bake cheesecake for dessert.
Okay.
She was an amazing cook.
Yeah.
That should be said.
With
My
the
mom made
maple
amazing meal. Like every night of the week, we had amazing food
Mm-hmm.
in my house, and I consider myself very lucky for that. But she never. No, dessert was like Ruggles ice cream out of the bottom freezer. And
Which isn't bad either, but
no, but then I'm like, well, what is that? Like, what does it look like to
Yeah.
bake professionally?
okay.
And so I just started to explore it and really explored it
Yeah.
and found that it was something I would love to be good at.
Huh.
And started playing around at home. And then impulsively, like you go and buy a car, I just marched over to a culinary school in New York and said, hi, I want to go here. And we had an interview, and they let me in. They'll take your money.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and so off I went. And I was, trying to carve out some sort of income with a waiting job and
Yeah.
maybe a reading and then going to culinary school in the mornings every day.
Did you go specifically for baking?
Yeah,
So they have that, like you can say, this is
You
the part
can.
of it that I want to do.
you can.
Okay.
Yeah. And this was a small, at the time it was called Peter Kump's New York Cooking School. It became the Institute for Culinary Education
Okay.
in the city. And it was very small. It was like maybe a kitchen the size of these two rooms here.
Oh my gosh.
And there was 7 of us in the class, and it was amazing.
Learned.
You're up to your elbows in European butter and Valrhona chocolate all morning long.
Did they just hand you a KitchenAid stand mixer at the beginning?
We all had our own
class?
mixers.
Yeah.
That we would, we had our stations. And
Yeah.
They taught you how to clean. Cleaning a kitchen is
That's important.
so much more than spray and wipe.
Uh-huh.
Like there's a lot
Yeah.
that goes into cleaning a kitchen. But
Especially with baking, which can get incredibly messy.
yeah. I do wish that it taught me a little bit more about true kitchen etiquette.
Huh.
But there's a lot of things that are learned on the job anyway.
Yeah.
So then when I stopped there, you do an externship in a restaurant that will place you.
What's the difference between an intern versus an
I
extern?
think it's the same thing. And I
Okay.
spent a couple of years thinking that they were separate things. And I'm like, I think extern meaning that you were externally out of the school in some other establishment.
So like an intern, but
You're an intern.
you're an intern.
Yeah. It wasn't paid.
So you didn't say like, I'm an extern, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you've been excluded from
Right,
something. I don't know.
right.
Or I'm external. I'm not from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It was a
So
weird
you
choice.
worked for a restaurant in New York and
Yeah, so I got placed at this a restaurant that is now closed, but it was legend
Okay.
at the time. It was called Gotham Bar and Grill. And it was Chef Alfred Portale
Okay.
who headed that up. And he was sort of like godfather of architectural food. So if you looked at that cookbook, the
Yeah.
Gotham cookbook, it had, the pasta. They had used a tuning fork and they had brought the pappardelle to be up in a cone and maybe stuck a rosemary in the top of that. So it's this thing that would arrive at
Yeah.
the table and you'd go, oh, what's your approach, right? Or for dessert, there'd be sugar sticks going in every
So you had to
different
learn all of
vertical
that.
direction. So we were building the plates at the same time. So that was very interesting to learn just good baking technique.
Yeah.
But also then the plating of it was its own challenge. And
especially for a restaurant in New York where you are clearly being watched with everything that you're
yeah,
doing.
and it was a great kitchen. He was a great chef. We all got along very well. And what surprised me about that being my first job, I had a lot of intimidation about like a New York restaurant kitchen.
Yeah.
I'm like that. I actually kind of wanted to go to a magazine. Gourmet magazines down the street. Can't I
Right.
just work there? Be a recipe tester? They're like, yeah, get in line. Like everybody wants to do that. So no. So I thought it was going to be this, crazy submarine like place where people are just throwing knives at your head all day and shouting and screaming. And it's
It's not.
maybe some kitchens do that, but it
Yeah.
wasn't ours. And
Aw.
it was
Which is nice for your
No, it was
first
amazing.
experience of-
It was like a lab.
Oh, wow.
People just were quiet. They had their heads down.
Did their work.
Did their job.
Yeah.
If it did get stressful, if a voice did get raised, it was for a very good reason. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and even then it'd be like a safety thing or,
Yeah.
because the kitchen really won't function any better when there's
It's
screaming.
not what you see on the shows.
Yeah, you're not seeing like The Bear, which we can, if you've seen that show,
I've not. But.
it's triggering.
I mean, I know it's a high stress environment, but if you know what you're doing and you're doing your job, I would think it's
Yeah.
just day-to-day work.
Yeah. And there were, mistakes happen, things
Yeah.
get stressful.
Right.
But what I loved about kitchen camaraderie is that you would do that, you'd finish your night, right? At the end of the day, the world still turns, right?
Yeah.
We clean our kitchens and we all go out and have beers. Like it never
Absolutely.
happened.
No.
We were so good at that.
Oh, the way it should be.
Yeah. And the three restaurants that I went to after were like that as well. So I made sure I surrounded myself by people who were better than me because you don't learn
Right.
if not,
Right.
but also professional,
Yeah. The way it should be.
the way it should be.
The way everything should be.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be stressful. No, I firmly agree with
It was
that.
an amazing time.
So then 18 years ago, you decide to be a flight attendant.
Yeah,
What
because
was the impetus for that?
that was okay. So the better I got at cooking, I ended up in a sous chef position
Okay.
in a restaurant that really the more responsibility you get, the more kind of chained to
Yeah.
the operation you are. I think that's true in most places, most industries.
Okay.
But it got to be so demanding because really it's like as a pastry cook or sous chef or the actual pastry chef, you're at the time you were the last to get the equipment. They would put you in a corner of the kitchen somewhere and the desserts were great, right? But
Yeah.
it was not without its struggles. And if you're a sous chef, woohoo, you got a title, but guess who's staying at work when the other person calls out sick? So
It's on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it turned into 80-hour weeks, and that wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
So, and you could ask Tom,
Was he
but-
touring at the time too?
on and off.
Okay.
Yeah, and at that time I wasn't able to see him so easily. So there were challenges there, but I think, gosh, I was literally booking a home flight for Christmas one night. and click. And then I looked at the bottom of the airline's website and it said career opportunities. And it must have been just an act of, oh my God, take me out of this.
Yeah.
That I put the resume in.
Oh my gosh.
And 2 weeks later they called. And at the time I was like, hey, Tom, what do you do when an airline calls you and wants an interview? And he's like, what?
Because he has so much experience.
I was like, I don't know. He's like, but this happened. He was like, I think you need to go. And so I did.
Yeah.
And had this amazing day of interviews with people who worked there. There was like 2 one-on-ones, a group exercise, which was fascinating. And at the end, it was me and 2 other people just waiting to talk to a group of managers in what they called a panel interview. And I was like, ooh, final callback. Now I know what this is.
Like 5, 6,
It's
7,
final
8.
callback. And they offered, and that day they offered me a spot in a training class. And Tom was really hesitant. He's like, wait, what? Wait, okay.
I didn't think that through.
Yeah, and he was really nervous. He was like, maybe I'm going to owe him huge for, doing this. This ended up being the best thing that's ever happened to us.
Yeah.
And it rescued me out of a routine that probably would have ended badly one way or another for sustainability. But man, it gave me so much work ethic. Theater and cooking make you
trained you for what you're doing.
Train you for almost anything because you're so adaptable.
Yeah.
You understand what it means to work hard and get a good product. You're good with routine.
Turn on a dime when you need
That's
to.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I would, to anybody in theater who, is having trouble or thinking of changing careers, you can be in that amazing program that I went through and still choose to leave.
But you should like to fly.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, right.
I feel like that's a big piece.
If you are afraid of flying, I would say run. But
don't do that one. Yeah.
Actually, I had a lot of misgivings and fears about things that happened on the plane prior. Tom was like, you really want to do that post 9/11? I said, yes, I do. Okay. Well, what about all the times you've been on the airplane going home and something like you heard something and you got jumpy? I said, yeah, well, I guess I'll find out what that was. Right. And I did.
Yeah.
And that's so much of it. It's like, the noise you hear those bing bongs, and you're like, oh God, something's wrong. There's an emergency. No, the flight attendants were just calling each other.
Somebody farted.
Maybe. Yeah.
So, and I know for me, I mean, I grew up with my family in the airline industry. So this is back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And, you could still smoke on the plane.
I know.
It's like you get the non-smoking.
Non-smoking section.
Yeah.
Sure, that smoke stayed right where it was supposed to.
Just the seat behind, you're fine.
I know.
Totally fine. Just don't do it in the bathroom.
You better not.
You don't do it.
You better not. Or vaping. Let that be known. Don't vape.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
But we used to drive other passengers nuts because we were so used to flying. And this is when Mom would say, like, we'd leave church on a Sunday, fly to Dallas, have dinner in Dallas, and fly back that night.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because we could.
And you dressed up.
We did dress up.
You had to look good.
We flew non-rev, so we
That's
would
right.
represent the airline. And this has come out on different podcasts, but I'll tell you because you'll appreciate. So we would fly every summer to see my grandparents in Arizona. And we would fly non-rev. So we were dressed to the nines with our nice dresses and nice shoes.
Amazing.
And our white tights underneath because it was the 80s. And we stopped somewhere once we got out of the airport so we could change clothes and just put our shorts and T-shirts on. And my grandma said, why didn't you guys take off your white tights? We did. We're just pasty white children.
We wear these tights so often we've never seen the sun.
just that white, Grandma. But anyway, we knew the flying industry and we knew what it was like. And, Dad worked everything from the desk to the one day when the toilet opened up, unfortunately, while he was trying to clear it out. Yeah, that was a crappy day at work.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's like my worst fear.
Yeah, it happened to him.
So he did
everything.
He did everything.
On the ground.
He was rotating.
Yep.
That's amazing.
He did all of that. And then my grandfather and my uncle both worked kind of in the office. So
there are airlines that do that depending on the city. It's like, oh, I worked the ticket counter, then I ran over the gate, went downstairs making sure the bags are okay, went back up to the gate.
Yep.
Like, man.
But I think that has still given me very much an appreciation for what flight attendants and airline workers do, because it's a lot.
Well, and also they're all connected. What they do affects me. What I do affects them.
Yep.
We should never be in our own bubble, not thinking about what the other department is thinking
No, because
about.
if one goes down, then
You're going to have safety issues arise
Yeah.
when you don't communicate.
there
those
was
things.
an airline that there were strikes starting to happen, probably about 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and the folks that were working out in baggage went on strike as they were loading up our bags, and so they were very
Wow.
informative of what was happening. But they just said, there's a strike that's happening, and right now we don't have anyone to load the bags.
Yeah.
The flight attendant went off of the aircraft, loaded every single bag herself, and came back on.
Amazing.
And it was just like,
And awful. But
I
yeah,
know,
like
it was miserable.
because when strikes happen, nobody wins. But
No.
It-
But I mean, it just showed how much that she cared, and
But
she
yeah.
wanted to make it happen as much as anybody else
yeah,
did. So
and just a work group standing up for themselves, and you
I
have to applaud
offered.
that too.
They wouldn't let me.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
strong, lady. I'll help. Didn't work though.
Yeah.
What is okay? I mean, this is terrible, but I want to know like some of your horror stories, because
I always get asked this, and I'm sad to
You don't have anything.
Well, it's not that I don't have anything, but my stuff is pretty low key because
Okay.
Somebody taught me very early on. They're like, people are going to want to know what your story is, and if you show up to work with the right dynamic in your brain of
doesn't happen.
it's not going to happen today, not on this plane, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It does. You know, you have mechanical
Right.
things come up, and you have
Yeah.
people who should not be on an airplane show up on your plane
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
Right.
But no, it's my flights are pretty chill. Yeah, when I would do that, I was like, if I'm not freaking out, they won't freak out.
Right.
So even though I have 6 things to do,
Yeah.
there's no reason for me to walk with blinders on, full urgency to the back of the plane, which is going to alarm 200 people.
Absolutely.
Why am I doing that? And then when they see me, spinning and going up and down, they're just going to maybe ask for more things. Oh, you're working. You look busy. Could I have a
Oh,
water?
yeah. Yeah.
It's sort of this natural human phenomenon. So I don't really bring that dynamic
Right.
into it. That said, sure, things come up. Mechanical things every now and then, but I do consider myself lucky.
But I think it's the attitude that you bring.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you and I are very similar, and that's what I do with productions as
Yeah.
well. Like, I don't want to be the stressed out one and the
No.
negative one. And
No, and-
usually the production goes great because
Right.
you just make it that way.
We say a happy customer is a happy flight attendant,
Yeah.
right? This goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just preserve that dynamic and know that we're all here. We're 8 hours away from where we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
We have 8 hours to figure this out.
Right.
We don't have to do it like instantly.
So, excuse me, let me choke for a minute. Alternatively, what are some of your most heartwarming things?
I was just thinking that there is one that I wanted to share, which sticks with me a lot. We were going to Manchester, England, and
7 hour, 6 hour?
from New York, that was about not even. That was
Okay.
like 5.5, 6 hours.
Not bad.
It's like LA. And we had a very elderly gentleman in his 90s come on board with his son. And I was working in the galley in first class, which was a position I really liked. And he comes on, and damned if he doesn't take his whole rollerboard and just put it up there himself. He sits down. We get him a drink. He's the nicest man
Yeah.
you could ask for, right? He's just delightful. And his son comes up to us. So we have the flight. The son comes up in the morning when we're about to do our breakfast service. And his son comes to the galley to say, hey, I just wanted to share that my grandfather's having an amazing time with you all. Thank you so much. And I was like, he's delightful. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks
Yeah.
for telling us. He's like, well, this is a really special trip for us. He's an Auschwitz survivor
Oh my gosh.
and is going to be featured in a documentary that they're producing. And the film's actually being premiered or what have you in Manchester this weekend. So we're going to a film festival to check it out. I was like, are you kidding me? The man racked his own bag,
Yeah.
was the most amazing customer you could have had. He was appreciative of everything we handed out. We had a 5-course meal to hand out, and he loved every minute of it. And he had that,
Yeah.
for his history.
Jeez.
So we were all very humbled by
Yeah, that would bring a few
that.
tears.
But
I
yeah,
would think.
just an awesome
Oh, that's so cool.
thing to have on board. We've had sports teams for the Olympics.
Nice.
Also, we had the wheelchair rugby team on one year, and watching all of them find their seats without their wheelchairs was just the most impressive thing you've ever
that's
seen.
amazing.
Yeah, faster than I ever could have found my own
Oh,
seat.
of course. Yeah.
Brilliant. So you see a lot of humbling things.
Yeah.
Because you never know where somebody's coming from. It's wild. I
You're
wouldn't.
getting people of all types and
I wouldn't trade it.
personalities and-
It really just, it enables you to travel, which I feel everybody should do,
Yeah.
even if it's just to one country.
Yep.
You should do it as much as you can. And the people you meet along the way it's not lost on me.
What do you have for tips from a flight attendant for travelers?
Okay.
I love traveling, but I can learn a thing or two as well.
The first thing I would say is pack light. You can always pack lighter. But if you
Roll your item. I roll my items.
I'm a big roller. Yes, absolutely. But if you do have to, and if you've gotten it down like what you and I do, whereas we don't check, right? But if you do have to check, you have to check. It's okay.
Right.
Your bag's going to be fine. There's ways to track it. It's all
Absolutely.
good.
Yep.
But keep that important stuff with you. If it's a passport, if it's medication, if your bag operates on a battery of any kind, make sure you disconnected that battery before you hand it off to be checked. That's big. And the reason for that is if it's a lithium-ion battery, I'm a safety policy writer now. This is what's going
It's
on
what
in my
you
head.
do, yeah.
Yeah. If it were to have a episode and spark, we want to have it with us so we can handle that. We don't want it down in cargo.
Nope.
Yeah, so when they talk to you about smart bags, that's important.
Yeah.
But on the plane, first just make sure you listen to the instructions, the safety demo that airline does for you is really, really critical. And you may be bored by it, but what's not boring is thinking about how the boring script that you're used to adapts to the plane you're currently on. That's
Yep.
not boring.
That's not boring.
That changes every time. So you can definitely see how many rows you got to your exits and think about what using an oxygen mask would really be if you had to.
Yep.
And that doesn't even take 30 seconds.
And maybe it's just the acting coach in me, but I always pay attention because I want y'all to feel that I'm paying attention.
Thank
and
you.
Listening. It's
Thank
important.
you.
Well, you're giving a presentation.
Yeah. Listen, I trust that I've talked to exit row customers and make sure they're good to go. We have to do that. But it's like, okay, if you're looking down, maybe you are still listening. I can't challenge that. But if, a clump of customers is like loudly talking, we would have to go over and be like, hi,
I'm still here.
you can totally keep this going in 30 seconds. Can you listen to us for, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
But it's a thing.
Sometimes takes a reminder.
I'm a huge fan of sitting in the exit row. And
Yeah.
I realize, it's the leg room.
Yeah.
But every time I've done it, I end up in lovely conversations with the flight attendants who sit there and chat. And
It's true though. They when we fly for business, they usually put us there. So it's good. It's a good chance
Yep.
to have a conversation with an airline employee
And
if
it
you
was.
want to.
Yeah, it was. We talked the entire time about
Yeah.
it. And it actually was very cool because I was traveling for the Parkinson's play. And so we started off with a conversation about the airline industry,
Yeah.
but then it quickly turned to, I think I'm having symptoms of Parkinson's. And it just was this incredible conversation with a former pilot.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised at the walks of life that airline crew members come from.
Yeah.
Like we are former lawyers, we're former doctors, nurses, people who just wanted to chuck it all and go fly.
Yeah.
But they have these skills in their back pocket.
Right.
They're amazing.
This is sad, but I wouldn't do it because I don't like vomit. I don't
Okay.
handle vomit well.
It's valid.
Yeah. And I've had children.
It happens.
It does.
It happens when you least expect it.
Yeah. And that's what I don't like about it.
You mean we have a way to clean that up, but it's at the same time in the moment it's tough.
It's still there.
Yeah,
It
it's
still
hard.
happened. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
I know.
No.
No, anybody who's like, "Wow, I love vomit." Like
That's true. I don't wanna
What's going
meet
on?
them.
Yeah, I don't want to be your
No.
friend either.
You know what? I was thinking about how much I love vomit.
Yeah.
No, it's and unruly people. That would be difficult because there is nowhere to go and you can't.
Yeah, there's
can't escape
there's
from
pretty
it,
specific ways to approach that
Yeah.
we have to keep in mind, and The majority of people, and I like this coming from the theater world, it's entertaining to me a lot of ways. If they've got these quirks, how would an actor approach that,
yeah.
right? They'd want to get into those quirks. And
Yeah.
they'd want to maybe entertain a 30-second conversation to get a little bit more.
True.
So that, what would maybe annoy another person I have a higher threshold for what annoys me
You've been in the acting
when it
industry.
comes to a customer. But
Seen it all.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's just everybody needs to be nice to each other. We know that post-COVID, everything got shifted for so many things. The ripple effect of that with our mental health and whatnot has really been challenged.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be.
But it doesn't have to be. And the plane can be a great experience if you let it be. Just thinking of your other customers
Right.
around you.
Right.
That would be another bit of advice I'd say. It's not all about you. Middle seat gets both armrests. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah, you did. Because they got the middle seat.
Yeah, being aware of just, how to be in your space, to not do gross, stupid stuff.
Do you...
But safety-wise, I mean, I don't know if y'all are aware of, when Japan Airlines had that evacuation a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that evacuation was so successful because not only was the crew amazing doing their jobs, but those customers did not bring anything with them.
Yep.
And
That's what
I
you're
think
supposed to do.
it is what you're supposed to do. And it's said in our safety demo, but it's a human instinct to want to have your things with you. And in past evacuations, a lot of people have opened bins to take things out, and that holds things up. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Your phone's in your pocket.
That's okay.
Okay, leave it there.
That's what you need.
And go, go, go.
Yep.
You don't need anything else.
No.
Get your people.
Value your life.
Help the person next to you.
Yeah.
And let's get out.
Right. That's good advice.
Yeah.
It's so, I think too, like for me, and developing anxiety as a parent, I think is a pretty normal thing. But since having children, I've grown in anxiety, and it was awful to me to find out that started to come out when I was flying. But the one thing that I always realize on a flight is if I pay attention to the flight crew, and they're not freaking out, there's no reason for me to freak out.
Yeah. I might be freaking out that my coffee maker broke.
Sure, but I don't see that.
No, yeah.
No, because when there are those sounds and there are those things of like, I don't like that feeling. Oh, that's a little weird.
What I would do is and what I would do is ask.
Yeah.
We are all too happy to tell you.
Yeah.
Truly, like we're very sensitive to those who are nervous to be on the airplane. And I might not have the time to sit and talk you through every step of the way.
Right.
But you could certainly just say, what was that noise I just heard? Be like, oh, it was actually the wing flaps being extended
Yeah.
For takeoff. Whatever. You
Right.
learn those things in training.
Sure.
And a customer has no idea what those are. All they hear is grinding, and we don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We'll tell you.
we will absolutely tell you.
Yeah.
If it means that you're going to feel better about it,
And that's hard when
Happy
you
to
are
shed some
stuck
light.
somewhere and you're scared to death.
yeah,
and
yeah, you're not in control.
You're not.
That's
yeah,
why
that was part of what
that's
I learned
where
in
it
therapy.
comes from.
Yeah, I know.
You're not in control. You're not driving.
I don't want to drive a plane. I'm good. I'm okay not to be a pilot. I don't think that's something in my.
We have a big shortage now, so I would say if you do,
Yeah.
check it out.
Nobody'd vomit on me. The door's shut.
Well, it depends on what y'all had the night before.
Fair. Oh my God.
Or for your crew meal. God forbid.
How do you feel about the Foo Fighters Learn to Fly video?
That's amazing.
It's such a great, oh my gosh, it's still one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Every moment of that is wonderful.
creative.
And perfect. And yeah. What's the best movie about air travel? So there's a lot.
Well,
I mean, Snakes on a Plane, I'm sure, is up there for you.
okay, do you know that? Well, let's just talk about Snakes on a Plane. Do you know that I saw that movie, midnight show, Times Square,
Oh my God.
the day it opened? Because I was living in New York, and I had a flight attendant buddy with me, and we're like, we got to go.
You have
we got
to
to do
see
it. That was so funny. First of all, we were like picking it apart. It's like, why is there a 747 with only 4 flight attendants?
Wrong.
Like,
Wrong.
that's a minimum crew of 9 or more. I don't know. Like, what's going on here? But yeah, no, we watched that movie, and it was all about Samuel L. Jackson, just landing those one-liners.
Have you seen the TV edits for that?
How could you even attempt?
It's wonderful. Something about the monkey flying snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
Whoa.
I'll send it to you.
I can't.
Oh.
She had a microwave in there. I was like, oh, Lord, this is not the airplanes
Did you stand up like, no,
No.
it's not right?
I was like, there's no point. It's midnight show. And we were just howling at the screen. Just partly at the audience reaction.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing. So Snakes on a Plane is just it's a good little nugget of entertainment. I don't know. We love Airplane.
Of
You know,
course.
Airplane doesn't always hold up, but
No,
it's still Airplane.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about Airplane 2. That was
Can't say I've seen that
Not
one.
really a thing.
No.
But about air travel, I mean, listen, Sully was good.
Yeah.
It's darker, but it's an amazing story.
True.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being at work when that happened.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It's the coldest day of the year in New York.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
Ah, I'm
What's-
proud of you. You're doing it all here.
Shush.
You've made
Except
Columbus
the
Theater
editing.
quite
You
a
don't want
thing.
me to do that.
Oh,
Don't.
am I going to survive this edit?
Well, it's not me doing it. Yeah, so you're fine. What's next for you? Anything exciting coming up?
I mean, a lot for just, I'm trying to develop this new position that I'm in at the airline. I write safety policy for our manuals, which is so much fun. I'm honored to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing where that goes, spending a lot of time getting good at it. And Tom's like, do you like it? I was like, yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm nailing it. Maybe I'm nailing it. I don't know.
out.
Like, I'll find out.
They come into play.
Yeah, I have my review in a little while. We'll see. But I wish that there was more time for theater.
Yeah.
It's been really nice to carve out the time to do theater locally here because that was a big deal. It was not something I thought I'd ever get to do again. So
Do you have anything coming up?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm concert material. If you can use me for like a weekend or a concert, we can absolutely do that.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, because with show rehearsal schedules
It's so much.
and Thursday performances, it's
Yep.
like I'm coming back from Chicago, I wouldn't make it, so I can't really give myself to a theater company's
Yeah.
schedule like that.
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. But the few shows that I've gotten to do here, there was a 20-year break between me
Okay.
stopping and
Yeah.
and performing again
We got to do 2 shows together. We had 3 performances
of
together.
Rock of Ages. That was amazing.
It was fun.
Well, and I was lucky because I had a good kind of setup.
Yeah.
They told me way ahead of time that I'd get to help out, and then
So you had time to plan and
oh yeah, and then I was watching the rehearsals. The great Luke Bovenizer wrote me a lovely,
Track sheet.
full
Yeah.
tracking sheet,
Yeah.
which was
yeah.
so accurate. Like if you're gonna cover somebody, cover Luke Bovenizer. But hi Luke.
Shocker, Luke has not been on the podcast. I just thought about that. We'll have to get him on here.
Yeah, get Luke.
Yeah. Yeah.
He got stories.
Does.
Yeah.
Your husband actually helped me through another flying debacle we almost had. It was when we extended Spring Awakening
Oh yeah.
for those extra 2 days.
gosh,
And
you
I
were
said,
so
should
good
be
in that.
fine. We're
Yeah.
flying back 12:30 the day of that performance. We'll be fine. 3 o'clock in the morning. I know, right? They canceled the second flight that we had. So we were able to get out of New York, but we were going to be an hour late to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm crying. My kid is crying. Crying seems to be the theme for me with canceled flights. But
It's hard though with Columbus. It's not you. Sometimes it's not a nonstop, and you gotta.
Yep. And I had called Tom, and he's just like, see if you can get another flight, see if you can get close.
Yeah.
He said, can you drive back from Tennessee? I said, Tom, I'm on 3 hours of sleep with my child in the car. No. Not safe, not going to do it. And, COVID was bouncing back and forth.
Is what it
People were
is.
Sick. And I remember going up, the guy at the desk was so helpful. This was Southwest. And he had looked through every single city that was nearby. And finally he looks and he's like, how fast can you run?
Ooh,
And I was like, pretty fast.
I saw Home Alone. I know what happens.
Yeah. He's like, is your kid okay? I was like, it's great. He goes, I'm going to put you on the flight to Tennessee. You have 10 minutes to
Hey.
get to the next gate.
Well, he can
If
call
it
ahead
goes
though,
in
because
time.
he's the one who's putting you on
He
it.
did.
That's
He
good.
put us in the front row. The dude next to me was on the app the whole time showing me in the airport where to go. He said, I'm going to block everybody behind you so you guys have a chance. And
Nicely done.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. And there you
We
were.
cried still.
Well, yeah.
But it was, Yeah, I mean, that was a great incident of like everybody helping too. I think it helps to have a
I
child.
see that on the plane. I see somebody like heaving, crying.
Yeah.
And I'm handing him a glass of water. I'm like, "You all right?" Mm-hmm. Like, just run through the airport. Yep. I'm like,
Yeah. How's your blood pressure? Yes.
it's like all it was just a run through the airport, and there's
It's a lot.
bless it. Just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Oh man.
You're amazing. Thank
Oh,
you so
so
much
are
for
you.
coming on. And
So much more to talk about too.
I know.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
Boxland Media. Think big.